Now, policies are very high level. If you've ever read them, they're hard to kind of sink your teeth in. It's like, what do I need to do really? Because a policy is abstract. It's at an abstraction level, and it doesn't really tell you, what configurations need to be put in place, what type of technology, what type of skill set do we need. It sets the tone, and then you have to have specific things underneath the policy to get more detail oriented. You're going to have standards that are going to be more detail oriented. The standards are pulled from or come from the policy, but they also support the policy. We'll also be covering baselines and guidelines. All of these things come from the policy and support the policy. The goal is that a policy is so high level. I mean, what if somebody told you, you be good? Well, what does good mean? What does bad mean? What are the ramifications for being bad? So that's why we need much more specific things. So a standard is something that has to be enforced. It has to be followed. And there's a lot of different standards. Like employees have to have a badge with their ID, their photo ID always available. Guests can't walk around without being with an employee with them. And then there's standards that deal specifically with technology on what the configurations absolutely have to be. So standards have to be followed. If they're followed, then that means that the policy is being enforced. So within the policy, so within the standard you'll have laid out exactly who does what or what needs to happen. And something that's very common is a configuration standard, and that goes through the exact configurations and the settings, and they're usually pretty large documents that are very detail oriented. Now, a baseline is, for test purposes, you need to know that a baseline is the minimum level of security required. And what that means is that we have an acceptable risk level set, and let's say within the accounting department, we can only use systems that have a C2 rating. Now, if you're familiar with Orange Book, you know what that means, a C2 rating. We can only process top secret information on mandatory access control systems. So baseline means we have to have at least this much security. Now, we can go above this, we could have more security on top of it, but we have to at least have this much. So really, if we follow all the standards, that means that we're hitting that baseline. So if we follow all the standards properly, we are providing the minimum level of security that's required. And then, as I said today, we're getting into metrics to be able to define these and keep track of the security levels a little bit better.